We're going to do a little bit more work with changing a quadratic equation from standard to vertex form by completing the square. Last time you noticed that none of our quadratic terms, none of our x squared, had any coefficients. So we've got to figure out how to deal with problems that do have a coefficient, like y equals 2x squared minus 12x plus 15. It gets to be a little bit more complicated. So we're going to start it the same way, though, that we did the last time. We'll subtract 15 from both sides so that we have our two x terms on one side. Then we need to make sure that this a in front of our x squared is a 1, and if it's not, what we're going to do is divide both sides by that coefficient. So on the right side, I'm going to divide each term by the 2. On the left side, I'm just going to put the whole entire expression, y minus 15, over 2, and just leave it like that. Now if you got a copy of this that is written this way, you need to change that so that the minus 6x is not in the exponent. It needs to be x squared subtract 6x. Little typing error. Oh, that's okay. So now we have y minus 15 all divided by 2 equals x squared minus 6x. And we'll go ahead with the steps for completing the square. So we'll take b, which is negative 6, divide by 2, so we get negative 3, and then we'll square negative 3, and that gives us 9. So we're going to be adding 9 to both sides. So we have plus 9 over here and plus 9 on the left side. That's how we got down to this step. Y minus 15 all divided by 2 plus 9 equals, and then we go ahead and factor this right side using our negative 3, so x minus 3 squared. At this point, once you factor, you're basically going to make a U-turn. And we're going to undo all the steps we did before. So let's just go through the steps and kind of list them. The first thing we did was subtract 15. The second thing we did was divide by 2. The third thing we did was add 9. And then we factored. So at this point we're going to make a U-turn and we're going to go in reverse order. Or we're going to go in the reverse order and we're going to do the opposite operations. So the next thing I will do is subtract 9 from both sides. So I'm going to subtract 9, subtract 9. That's why I ended with y minus 5 all divided by 2 equals x minus 3 squared minus 9. Then I'm going to undo the next step, which was divide by 2. So I will be multiplying by 2 on both sides. So I multiply by 2 here. And then you have to be careful that you multiply everything on the right side by 2. So I'm distributing in the 2 to the parenthesis x minus 3 squared and to the negative 9. So the 2 on the left side cancels the dividing by 2. So I get y minus 15 equals 2 parenthesis x minus 3 squared minus 18. And then I'm going to finally undo the subtract 15 by adding 15. So I will add 15, and that's how we arrive at y equals 2 parenthesis x minus 3 squared minus 3. Now this parabola has a couple of 3 different transformations. We are shifting right 3. We are shifting down 3, and out front here we have a vertical stretch of 2. So when we go to sketch this graph, we are going to start from that new vertex at 3, negative 3, and then grow our parabola from there. So how we would accurately sketch that is normally we're going over 1, up 1, over 2, up 4, over 3, up 9, but with that vertical stretch of 2, That's going to increase the height of every ordered pair by a factor of 2, so I need to multiply all of my ups by 2. So let's graph it here. We'll start with a vertex at 3, -3, and then we'll go over 1, up 2, and on the other side. And then over 2, up, this time 8 instead of 4. And then on the other side as well. And then over 3, up 18. That's going to be off my graph, so I'll just stick with the points that I have and go ahead and sketch a nice smooth curve through all my points. And there you have it. We should probably practice with a couple more of these, because with that coefficient in front, it can be a little bit challenging. So we have a couple that we can work on together. Okay, letter A. We'll start here. Y equals -3x squared plus 6x plus 9. Okay, first step, let's subtract that 9 over to the y side. So we get y minus 9 equals -3x squared minus 6x. Then I have a coefficient on my x squared term, so let's go ahead and divide. Remember, we're dividing each term on the right side by -3, but I'm going to put the whole left side over -3. So now I have y minus 9 all divided by -3 equals -3x squared divided by -3 is x squared, and then -6x divided by -3 is plus 2x. And then I've got to do my completing the square. So b is positive 2, so I'm going to take 2 over 2, which is 1. 1 squared is 1, and that's what I'm adding to both sides. So plus 1 here, plus 1 here. Then I'm going to factor my right side. I leave the left side just as it is, so y minus 9 all over -3 equals x plus 1 squared. Okay, remember, after the factoring step, we U-turn. Oops, I left off my plus 1. I hope you guys caught that. Plus 1 on the left side. After my factor step, I U-turn. So I'm going to undo all the steps I just did in the reverse order. So on this last step, what I did was add 1. So at my U-turn step, I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides. So I'll have y minus 9 divided by -3 equals x plus 1 squared minus 1. Okay, the step just before that, I had divided by -3. So to undo that, I will multiply by -3 and multiply by -3, which means on the left side, those cancel, and I get y minus 9 equals. On the right side, I'll distribute that -3 in, so I'll have a -3 in front of that parenthesis, -3 x plus 1 squared, and a -3 times -1 gives me plus 3. Then back up to the very first step I did, which was subtract 9 from both sides. So the last thing I'll do is add 9 to both sides, and I end up with y equals -3 times x plus 1 squared, and then plus 12. So let's think about the graph of this parabola. It has a shift right, just kidding, left 1, up 12, and this is a vertical stretch of 3 and a reflection over the x-axis, which means it's going to open down. So when I go to graph this parabola, instead of starting at 0, 0, I will go left 1 up 12, so the vertex will be at -1, 12, and then from there I will be moving right 1, and with the reflection I'm going to be going down. Instead of 1, I have to do 1 times 3, and then right 2, down 4 times 3, and then right 3, down 9 times 3. And that will give me an accurate sketch. Let's see if we have time to do one more example.